think it's going to happen.
Yes, very nice. Hello and welcome to the Monday, 29th of March, 2021 DXbiz Dev Call. On the agenda today, we have, we're going to start with new member introductions. I don't see anyone right now. We're going to have a quick discussion about DX Ventures. There's been some feedback from Christopher from 1KX and some discussion on DeepDAO and Opolis, like potential investments. There's been a discussion on the chat about a curve deployment on XDAI. Martin, maybe you want to chat briefly about this. And another discussion that happened in the Treasury chat about DXDegen, or taking a bit of the DXDAO Treasury and actually using it to farm. And yeah. Oh yeah, also swapper XDAI stuff. Sorry. So do we have anyone new? No, I don't think so. So we can just get started with the DX Ventures discussion. So a bit of background. I think Chris gave us a bit of feedback. And given the fact that we have about $1 million to deploy from DX Ventures, at least right now, talking about like the check sizes and wanting to distribute our exposure to the different projects and looking to have our check sizes between 50 to 100K, something around these lines, and finding several basically different startups to invest. And then if we recognize one might be a winner, then double down. So that's one thing. I don't know, Christopher, maybe you want to elaborate, and then after that we can discuss on DeepDAO and Opolis potential investments.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's relatively obvious, right, that we, like if we have like a $1 million fund, that we shouldn't like spend 20% of all of our capital like on the first deal or like one of the first deals that we come across. It's just kind of like in terms of the statistics of like how venture capital works. It's usually like 1 in 20 deals that is actually like returning the fund. And on that note, I would recommend to do like 50K tickets on average, but then eventually like invest like another 50K, when we kind of like see, okay, they have really gotten a lot of traction and it's kind of like clear they will be the winner within their vertical, and to then double down. But on average, I would recommend to go with like 50K tickets. And yeah, like, I mean, in terms of opportunities, right? I've seen this like in other DAOs. It's becoming like very enticing to, because I mean, you can like, I mean, in general, we are all optimists in this space, right? When you're like a pessimist, you probably don't spend your time like in crypto, right? And so we are already like super biased, like everyone in this space. And so this also like applies to kind of like investment DAOs I have seen. And so I guess it's, we should also take this into consideration, when making like a decision, and maybe always try to get someone who has like a contrarian view, or always try to have like someone in the investment team to take on the contrarian view. But having said that, I think Opolis, I think it's a pretty good product market fit for what DXDAO is really like looking for, right? And for also like what the stated purpose of DX Ventures is. And from that perspective, I think Opolis might actually be a very nice fit for DXDAO.
Awesome.
So somebody else has to take the contrarian view on that.
Yeah, maybe I can add something, because I did read the stuff, but I didn't have time to give really have a second look. Mostly also mostly also because I'm not token. It's for me normal, but equity it's a little bit harder for me to judge. And so one question is, which I don't understand. So how can what's the equity there? Because they have like this foundation or however they call it, this special construct. And if we have equity in, what do we have equity in? I think this is still not clear in your policy. For me, it's not clear what's the equity, because, and this is first question. The second question is, if it's clear, then how can we, we don't have like an entity, how we hold equity? And this is the other thing who is not clear for me. But I think it's a good product, so I can take the contrarian part here. It looks like so. But maybe Christoph, you have an idea how the equity, how this should work, because now they have like this special vehicle where then the members have the voting rights in a way. So the token holders who are members at the same time, we don't have voting rights as it looks like. But if you have equity, we need I don't know in which structure then we have this equity.
Yeah, so I'm not too familiar with the Opolis deal, but like usually we also like invest mostly into equity, and this equity then usually at some point converts into tokens on a pro rata basis. And so like what usually happens, like, I mean, probably like the Uniswap and Compound deals are like probably like the most prominent ones. So 100% of the investor equity turned into like 49 or 50% of the token supply. And I think this is kind of like getting a bit standard in the space. I'm not sure like if the Opolis deal is exactly the same.
Yeah, Opolis is quite different, I guess, because shortly said, you know, that the people who are using Opolis as a service, they are the person who are then have voting rights. They have like a mix between one vote, one person, one vote, and then they amplify it somehow if you hold the Opolis token or the work token, they call it. But it's very unclear. But in a way, we don't have voting rights because we are not as a investor, we are not member, and this is so there's a lot of unknown for me still, and maybe we have to ask them some more questions, and because that's more the, and then if this is the case, so the structure is like that they got like they have like these members, they have the voting rights, we have equity, but we don't have voting rights. I don't know how this works. So, and also there's no information about this. They just added the new information. Now it's equity. Before it was even unclear that it's equity. It was more like we buy token, I thought. But it looks like there's more work to do, or ask them how they see how these two how the entity and then this membership structure, how it combines. So,
I mean, then the question also becomes, right, do we actually need voting, or is this, just something that we as DX Ventures kind of like want to invest in because we think it's going to provide like a good return?
I don't think that we need voting, but the same thing is just now it looks like you have equity and then you get a defined token, and they have got these multipliers for the tokens. And then, it's just, I think it's too much, not very well known at the moment for me, but maybe we have just to have a second talk with them and ask them.
You should definitely have. You should definitely call them.
Just think we don't, nobody of us has really experience in this area because we are like, most of us are like token guys, So I'm completely token guy. So I don't know how this kind of deals, I even don't understand the language. Now I research, but I don't understand this kind of language. And so of course it would be very nice if you can help us, or if you have time, because I think you have got a lot of experience and we don't have anybody else, or maybe I have to ask, but do we have anybody who has like experience with this kind of stuff? Investing more on traditional ways? No.
Yeah, I mean, happy to jump also on a call and kind of like help clarifying those questions. Although
maybe you can have a look on again, and then I can prepare some question I've got, and then maybe you can give me some feedback on them, and then we can hop on a job call with them. All those who are welcomed. And as said, the idea that somebody has to take the contrarian view, I think, yeah, that's a good idea.
My pessimistic view on the Oculus deal is that I don't see them scaling outside of the US, honestly. I think there's way too much red tape for what they want to do to really scale outside of the US, and that's going to be the main problem.
100% agreed on that, but then at the same time, right, the same could have been said for Uber like 10 years ago, or like for almost any other company, you know, that really started in the US. Like for all of them, it felt like impossible to be kind of like established outside the US because they were like so US focused. But you know, like companies evolve over time. You know, their operational capacities evolve, and so they usually also get better at these kind of things. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, that they will have like an easy way to kind of like expand outside the US, but that's like so many years out. I would find it very difficult to make a prediction about it.
I think the market is big enough in the US for the start.
That as well, yeah.
So I think this could there could be potential like ROI on this just if it overtakes the US, or you know, a substantial market in the US of freelancers. So that's kind of like one. And second, I think like an important element here is, you know, who we are investing in and who the team is. And I've just worked with John in East Denver, and I mean, the guy is he's kind of crazy in some way, and he just doesn't let go from things, which is very weird. But I think he's just gonna, you know, go all in with this, and there's no way he's not gonna let this succeed. So I'm just like bullish on him as a person. So yeah.
I think the most important thing that Christopher said was on the check size, and I think we should, regardless of kind of the Oculus and the deep DAO thing, I think that's like the right approach we should be having if we are trying to have something that is, $1 million. Like we should be thinking about this, and that this is going to take a while to deploy, and we want to be deploying at small chunks to diversify. And so in this one, it would be like, I think we should be looking at like the 50K level. And I guess like the only thing I remember with the token was that it had a lot of different kind of changes as you went up with that. So yeah, I think regardless of kind of the Oculus thing, I think thinking about it in terms of this is something we want to deploy across tons of different projects, I think is a good way of changing the framework. And then the last thing I'd say is this is a time where a lot of people are deploying capital. There's a lot of capital going around, and we, you know, I just think everyone's an incubator now. Like everyone's trying to like, you know, provide some funding, mentorship, like kind of all of that. So it's a competitive place right now. And I know for like deals that are good that you get access to, like those are oftentimes not just because you have capital, it's because you've been in the kind of form relationships and you've been doing it for a while. So I do think this will like kind of take time for us to build up the capability to make investments that like fit our thesis, because it really takes like a company and a project to be at like the right stage. And I worry that like right now it's hard to find companies and projects at that perfect stage for DXDAO, just because it's a pretty frothy market right now.
I think one of the ideas though on that point of like finding the projects is that like with some of the stuff DXDAO is doing, we naturally see some things at a good stage. And I think like examples of that we didn't really get in on from an investment standpoint, but like we were there when it was happening, was like Radical, we've been talking to them like when they were doing Gitcoin grants, we like donated their Gitcoin grant. Tenderly, we were talking to them and using their product before they had raised any capital. So I think, and we will continue to like look for things that solve like decentralization for ourselves. And like, if we do come across things like that, then I think those are the opportunities we really shouldn't be missing.
I'm just wondering, like, why did we miss Radical? Like, that seems like such a no-brainer, like, to go into, like.
So, I mean, one thing is we weren't like formally organized, right? So I think the idea had maybe been floated, but like it was never like actually pursued in a serious sense, right? I think there's another issue though, which is like who else they're raising capital from and the format of their deal, and whether like DXDAO can actually execute on it on chain. Like, so there would be, you know, I think that could have been a blocker, but like I said, I think the main thing is we didn't really even like formally try.
There also wasn't that much capital that in DXDAO then. I was thinking this is like the fall, right? Just thinking the treasury grew a lot from ETH appreciation.
Yeah, because I was thinking like Radical makes so much sense because like we like if it succeeds, like we can use that product, like if we can improve it, like we can add something to it, and I think we should be thinking along those lines, like something that we can use that like aligns with like our mission and that we can help out. Like if some VC invests in some startup, like he usually sees like what can he add to it, like what value does he bring to increase its value. I think we should be thinking along those lines, like not just about making money, but to use it and to, you know.
All right. Do we want to try and converge on a decision? Like, I don't know. I feel like, let's say the ceiling is 100K. We're not going to be investing more than that. I think, yeah, 50K is like the minimum, right, from that thing. And then there's like a multiplier if we invest 100K. And then theoretically, if let's say we invest 100K and then maybe people from DXDAO want to join in independently, like we could somehow structure that, you know, we get a higher tier or a better multiplier, if that even makes, if there's even demand for that. So yeah, I don't know, any thoughts? 50 or 100K?
I would stay with the 50 because like it looks like, yeah, even now the thing they provide, it's not very well structured in a way, and I miss things still. And so I think they have like somewhere there are like breaks, you know, they have like this, the structure they have imagined for the members and the equity structure, somehow they don't meet for me. I don't see them, and they are not able to. It looks like they redid it and they changed a little bit, but they are not able to address this, and I don't understand why. Because I think there's like an insecurity in their business model somehow, or how they think they will work. And yeah, so this is the thing I see. I'm not so convinced. This is the main reason, because maybe it also will have some, you know, they postpone this stuff and then they have to fix it somehow later, and then it adds a lot of friction. And so I would not recommend to go with 100, because I think there are deals out there which are no-brainer for us, you know, and then we should really think, okay, we are very close, we can work together, and we can have feedback and make the product better and all this kind of stuff. And then I think 100K, it's totally fine. But for Opolis, yeah, but maybe we have really, I think it's a great idea to try to talk to them and maybe get a better deal for the multiplier, as you said, you know, that we ask them if we provide some members then, or if we get some, I don't know, kickback, or I don't know. because we don't know what the situation is right now. You know, maybe they have plenty of people who want to invest, and then they're not willing to make any other deals, or maybe not.
All right.
But this
so
is just my opinion. You know, it looks like I'm the person who has like mostly read the stuff and so, but I would like to have somebody else, you know, doing it from our side again, because it's not the way we should do it. So just.
Yeah, I haven't taken the time to look at the docs, and I would like to see somebody from DXDAO who has read the docs to be able to concisely like describe the terms, basically. And it sounds like there's confusion, which is
and for me
just
also it would be
that
nice.
Shouldn't necessarily block us, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be also a more efficient process if two people are researching it, because then in a social process it's easier to reach like a conclusion, and because it's also easy to miss some aspects because it's complex, you know, it's not.
So do we have an answer to the equity question? Like, how are we going to own equity as a DAO?
I think this is a question we have to.
I think the answer is we can. Or like, I think we can own on-chain assets, or own, like things that connect on-chain. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you guys, there's a way to talk to them and basically say, like, I think they understand that the DXDAO is not able to own traditional equity. Maybe we can get like a better deal on the token side. That's like for one. And in general, like, if we can't use the token at all, and that means it is just like for profit making, like we saw with DMM token. My point about that is like, if it's just about making profits, when do we know when to sell? Are we actually, like, I think the DXDAO is not really quick in making that decision. So there needs to be like someone who's responsible for making that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the decision will be by the DAO, right? Like, I guess like a signal proposal first on NextDAI, and then if we actually want to do it, then.
I mean, that basically means 2 weeks of getting a decision, which means the token could crash 90% in 3 hours. Like, my point is, if we just see it as like a good investment opportunity, I'm skeptical that the DXDAO is actually like a good candidate for doing those kind of deals, because the DXDAO is not making fast decisions.
Yeah, but this is not investing like directly in a liquid token, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but sort of like, it's sort of like an OTC deal for, I'm not sure if like transferable tokens, but yeah.
They are fully you own them, you can transfer them, but the thing is, the token, I think the token, it's really a bad deal, you know, because the price we pay for a token, if you invest 50,000, is $2, and somebody who invests like $250,000 gets it for 40 cents. So the token can't be the reason why we invest, because then the deal, I think it's too bad. What can be the reason is the equity we get, but this part is for me unclear. So I think we should just have maybe somebody else I would like to have somebody else on my side, and then we can have maybe make a second round, and then next we can have questions, and then next week we will have a better. It's easier to decide, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to maybe, Martin, you, Sky, and myself maybe get on a call and try to sort this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come with basically a proposal.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess.
Okay. Yeah. We go to next.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that is the action item. One sec, what happened to the agenda?
Maybe I can add the curve stuff here because I'm just I'm live
Yeah.
now. Is that okay?
Yeah, I did want to talk about DeepDAO as well, which is also something that's a potential investment.
Okay.
And yeah, I think John, you were kind of involved with this, and maybe a few others. Yeah, I don't know any idea on that. By the way, did they officially reach out to us, or did we talk to them?
I believe Sky did, but we might have to wait for Sky on this.
Yeah.
Because I did talk to them. I was involved in some of the conversations, but I have not looked in depth at what they were presenting.
Yeah, I would just update. Like we talked to them, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then they just got back to us at the middle of last week with some updates. They sent us an email. But I think Sky is driven this a little bit more.
All right. So yeah, maybe Martin, Sky, and myself will also talk about this and try to get something going.
I'm not informed about this. I didn't have time to read.
I mean, just as a brief comments on it. I think DeepDAO is, a little similar to Opolis, and where I'm a little questions about the token itself and what the kind of on how that kind of fits into the investment. And so that's kind of separate from what I think about DeepDAO. And I think with DeepDAO, it is somewhat well positioned because they have kind of some DAO research. I think it's actually slightly different than Boardroom and Tally, which I think are really great projects, but those are a little bit more focused on helping individual people participate in governance, whereas I think DeepDAO is a little bit more about providing insight on DAOs themselves and less about enabling you to vote, or at least that's the direction I hope they go into more, providing more information on DAOs and kind of some of the metrics there. But it's definitely there's some overlap, and I think DeepDAO is it's in an okay position. I think we should continue to explore more. My questions are on the token, but I think we need to do some more thinking on this. And so Nyland, I'd be happy to chat about the DeepDAO one with you guys.
All right, so we'll continue in for the DeepDAO one. Yeah, should we move on? Yeah, Martin, do you want to talk about the Curve deployment on XDAI?
Yeah, maybe shortly. I think it was happening last week. I just did see it on the weekend that Curve opened a franchise it's called Ellipsis, and it's running on the Binance chain, smart chain. And in a way, they both, the Curve it's the code itself. It's copyrighted, I guess. And so somebody asked them to if they agreed that they make a copy of it and copy it to BSC. I short looked at the code today on GitHub. Looks like it's just one guy. So, but in a way, what they do now, they have this now running on BSC, and it's working, and they do an airdrop for the vCurve holders, and they get a quarter of the tokens, I guess. And for me, it looks a little bit also, it looks like it's a test bed for Curve to look how these things play out. Also regarding Curve is disputing tokens, I think, over 4 years. And as I did see, Opolis, they dispute all tokens in 1 year. So they will be finished before Curve will end disputing tokens, and maybe for them it's a testing environment. But I had just the idea, maybe we can just ask if we can do it on XDAI for Curve, and because I had some conversation with Curve, so maybe I can reach out to them and ask them if interested in this kind of, do it on another chain. And in a way, I think strategically wise, it's quite interesting what they're doing, because they can move much faster like this. They don't need like their own team and deploy it to another chain and manage it. So they do a kind of franchising, and the original holders, which are also, I think the biggest Curve holders are like the Curve team. They get a big stake in the other version running on the other chain. And it's just the question, it's different. The BSCC version is a little bit different. Our tokenomics is different from the original Curve. And part of the Curve, it's written in Solidity. It's in Viper, written in Viper. And I don't know if we have to touch the code. I don't think so. But now the Ellipsis looks like they combined some original code from Curve, but the tokenomics they made for themselves. And but the first stage would just ask them if they are interested in a deal, and then maybe we can do something on mixed diet. But somebody has to take it all. I can make like the first communication, and then, but I don't have like the time to manage like another project. But I think we can handle that if it goes this direction. And in a way, I think we have a good position, because now on BSC, it looks like it's just one guy or 2 or 3 people, and we as a more established and we have like established structure, and we have proven that we have some know-how in this area. So I guess, why not?
Yeah. Nathan, wait, are you going to be doing BizDev? I'm not sure, because this could be like an interesting thing to start with.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the strange thing is that then maybe if there's a deal, we will have the first token DXDAO will have is some kind of franchising, and not like, I don't know how fast then we can move, but it's relatively fast if we agree. Maybe we can have this product in 2 or 3 months running on XDAI, and then maybe we are faster than with Omen. And somehow it's strange, because then we need like a token, because we have to give it back to the original Curve holders. But these are things we can fix, I guess, if there's any interest from Curve or if they agree.
All right, so I guess, Martin, if you can try to gauge if there is interest, and then if it makes sense, then Nathan can pick it up.
Okay.
I'd love to.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to the next topic, DXDGen. For lack of a better word, this could be a fund, or basically an allocation from the DXDAO treasury for maybe a guild or sub-DAO, or simply a multi-sig of maybe a few people who are interested from the community, and they can get a decent amount of money and use it for farming, staking, and different protocols. And yeah, this is the general idea. I don't know, Martin, if you want to expand on this, or anyone has any other idea about this. There was a chat in the treasury chat about this. So.
I would just say broadly, I think we're on a both a diversification and an increased risk path for the treasury. And I think that is a slow process. And I feel like yield farming is maybe step 5 or 6, and we're on step 3 right now, since we diversified into stable coins. I think that's really important. Just over 2 million on mainnet. We've gone and put a bunch of liquidity into Swapper, right? We diversified into that. And I think the next step would presumably be, once we reach 3 million in stable coins in the treasury, which I think should happen early next week, or no, mid next week. I think we should put those into like yield generating things, probably more safe at first. And then I would imagine like the step after that would be like getting more aggressive with yield farming. And I think, yeah, so maybe it's involved in that conversation about what we do with the next Treasury authorization proposal, like the last one that was, get to 3 million stables. And then like, what do we want to do with it there? But I think we're still in the process of diversifying and increasing our risk exposure now. And that's primarily with stables and putting it into Swapper.
All right. Has there been my thoughts around this is that we should take, around 100K worth of probably ETH and then put that into Rari Capital, Yearn. I think people are talking about Keeper DAO, and then like maybe one more. And then this is just probably more than 10% yearly API on ETH at any of these things. So like I'm wondering if there's like any objection to something like that, and this will probably will need to be done through a multi-sig. Theoretically, we could do that directly from the DAO, but I think that, I don't know, in a case of, I don't know, a rug or something, or a problem, like we would want to be able to withdraw it quickly. So yeah.
I would just say, I think like moving funds like this, it's just like a big process. So I feel like we need to think about more like like I guess like it's taken us a long time, I think, to get funds into Swapper, and like, or just like, it's we have to do proposals, we have to kind of like talk about it. So I feel like we need to like focus on those treasury movements before like getting more like crazier. But I know I'm probably less degenerate.
I don't think it's necessarily crazy if the portion, if now I'm talking about 100K or something. I mean, some of the biggest liquidity, like LP liquidity providers, what are they even called? Limited partners, still the same thing. For like venture funds are like school endowments, right? And they just put a small amount in with like a long-term focus. So I mean, I think having a small portion of the treasury like dedicated to like high risk moves is not a bad idea. I mean, I think the main thing here is we need somebody to like manage it. Like somebody needs to like identify the opportunities, like spread out across probably more than one or two. We could even do some things like have the farming contracts like vetted by an auditor, and like, do a little bit of due diligence around that. Like, I don't think we necessarily need it to be in a multi-sig though either. Like, I mean, yeah, like if there's a rug, you're not going to move out like instantly, but I mean, it's hard to do that even as like an individual anyways. So like, I think we should be a little conservative and not be doing like the most risky type things. But I think there's like a lot of like medium risky like farming things that have higher than 10% yield, right? Like,
I don't only go with,
I don't see an issue with allocating 100K in like yield farming stuff. My only viewpoint which is important for me, is that like the people who are controlling the money should have like a proper rep amount, just like to keep balances.
Well, I think if this is yet another multi-sig thing, then I think we're getting to the point where it's time to decentralize the distribution of multi-sig members, because it feels like at the moment it's always pretty much the same. So that's maybe something to think about for the future.
Yeah, I actually think we don't
like,
need them.
Definitely be the dev multi-sig. Like,
no, I think we should be moving away from multi-sig, and I think we could do this without the multi-sig.
I second John. If no multi-sig, that would be best. But then how many people are you thinking, like a guild? How are you thinking?
Doing it anyway?
No, I think you could do this directly through Alchemy from the DAO, but you do need somebody to like do like there needs to be some people who are doing the research, right, and like making the proposal. But but the DAO can still just do a normal vote through the multi-call to deposit into whatever, right, and then to collect it later.
I guess like I am trying to come off more pessimistic initially. Like I definitely think this is something that could bring returns and like makes a lot of sense. I guess just like what John says, it does require like a bit of effort to do it, and it's not just like send 100 ETH to that. And so I think we should just be thinking about what the process is for that and what are like who's doing what and how we're making decisions on that. And I guess we'd probably have to do like it'd be like another like relayer type thing, presumably, that would like I don't know if they would hold the funds or interact with the contracts or something.
I mean, you should be able to do this fairly easily, like from the DAO.
Everything everyone says is always like, this is easy to do. Like, this is really hard to do. Like to put the 250 ETH on Swapper, like took a whole day of like 3 people, it was like, and we haven't really even done it yet. It's just like all these things just like take like effort.
Yeah.
That's what I said. To me, the blocker is not the technology. Like it's doable with the multi-call. We already have it. It's not like there's no technological blocker here. It's like, what are we doing and who's doing the due diligence on what we're doing, right? And then, so I mean, if there's somebody who wants to be like the DXD gen, like manager, then like let's roll. Like, I don't see any reason to stop.
Already,
So why not like let's just see who has. I think the best way, instead of like making someone the manager, like let's just have people bring forth proposals, right? And they pass or they fail, right?
But the thing is, like, I think we need somebody who we have some trust in to like do the due diligence, though, right? Like to like vet those proposals. Because if somebody's like, go into this one, like, how do you know, looking at it, that that's like a good?
The best way would if people co-invest. If we as normal members, if we find like a place where we want to put money into, that we publicly co-invest, because then. It's like, I would like to, but my approach is very unstructured, so I can't provide like this risk. I have a lot of knowledge, but in a way, I'm just do it. I'm not really thinking that hard about how each one to choose. And so
I don't know. I mean, I think this is like the same thing when we're talking about like DX Ventures and Opolis and investing in them. Like it just takes time. Like we don't like we have capital, but just because you have capital doesn't mean you can just like go and do it. Like, and we should be figuring and thinking strategically about this. But like, I want to talk about like Swapper on XDAO, right? Like that's a great product. Like a DXDAO product we have now that like we should be driving like, users towards, like media attention towards, everything towards, and figure out how to like work on that rather than like how can we squeeze out some more yield.
So I think there's maybe an opportunity to do both. Like what if like DXDAO does farming in like BAO and announces that on XDAI, and like at the same time we're like, oh, by the way, you can trade on BAO with the Swapper UI. And like we gotta think creatively. Like we shouldn't be hesitant. There's like, I know things take time and process, but like that doesn't mean we shouldn't do them. Like and we should be creative.
Yeah, I'm just saying like we should be talking about I just think we should be like the products is like kind of just my. This is like different from focusing on the products.
We should have a similar approach to the DX Venture. We should not like just take anybody who's out there. We should like try to connect to them, and then if there is some interest, then it also can benefit the rest of the organization. And then it's not just simple farming. It's more targeted. But then it's more risk, because then mostly these are new projects, and then the risk is higher.
Yeah, so I don't think we should be doing like liquidity farming for something that could bring 1600%. I don't think this I don't think this is for the DXDAO appetite, basically. I would say that we should use something like Yearn or Sushi or Balancer, like the well-established ones.
Right. So to me, like I think it's kind of like the same discussion we were, like you're saying, Martin, with DX Ventures. I think since we all have our own responsibilities with the DAO, if anyone can actually set some time aside to write something up, how much for Yearn, why Yearn, right? Like why this project, break it down, like what that should look like. If all goes according to plan, then we can just kind of move forward, and that person kind of falls into the position of being the, you know, trusted person to start doing the degen 100K, like just distribution. And then whoever else wants to say, hey, I think we should put this amount of money in, write something up and does it. But if like no one has time to take it on, then it's like,
I do think in like the next month or two, we should look to make, I think Nylon said Yearn or Rary, like a very standard, like 100 ETH, 200 ETH, where we're keeping our ETH exposure, we're getting some APY. Like, I think that is like a maybe low risk one that will, we can maybe like talk about a larger, like, what are we doing at the treasury? And I think we can actually continue this conversation. Just to plug, next Thursday, we'll have like a treasury report discussion. And I think it maybe can like dictate some of the conversations on that. But I do think there is like the Rary and the Yearns should be, that yield aggregator for the treasury's ETH should be like, it is a good allocation decision.
All right. So I guess that's that. Trying to think who wants to be a part of this. I think Dave. I'm not sure how much experience you have with these things, but you're like applying for the treasury, right? So wondering like I'm happy to work with you. I don't have much time personally to actually like see this through, but I'm happy to like work with you on this.
Yeah, definitely happy to take a look as well and see how much I can contribute. I'm not an investment banker or anything either myself.
I mean, you don't need any investment banking background. I would say you mostly degen background. I would say.
No, yeah, I have like, I think I degen a lot the last 2 years. So
what's your degen score?
But it's under 100, it's in the top 100 still, I guess. But it's just, it's just that I never recommended my friends or family to buy crypto. It's not, in a way, it's a lot of risk, and it's also a lot of responsibility. But also in all of the way I see, we have like the money, and we could generate some income with it, and for the DXR should do it in a way. And I think you can really take a quite conservative approach in the way that you only use like established players, well-known, the community, well-known people, and also contracts which are in use since several months maybe. And I think it also changed a little bit. Now Yearn had like a slow start, and they need a lot of time to get the system running. But now it looks like, it looks very promising for me. It looks like they have now a good project, and they have a nice setup. They have a community, and so I also have been hacked once, but that's how it is. So I would like I can provide my expertise, and I can also provide some ideas, but I can't like manage this kind of stuff, because then we would have just to co-invest with what I do, but it's not possible, I guess.
I mean, another way to look at this is like, how do we generate yield from the treasury, right? Not necessarily like the degen, DXD degen, right? Like, and like we were just talking about in the chat here, right? If you get 9% on USDC on compound, that's not degen, right? So if you're talking 10%, you're not even like in the risk spectrum. That's like, you're not that far along the risk spectrum.
But what you do, you take compound, and then you pack it into curve, and then you pack it into Yearn, and then you get 30%.
Right, but that's a lot more risky, right? But like, but 10%, you can literally use like some of the most like vetted and like high quality contracts in crypto, right? With like basically non-crypto collateral backing it, right? So, but like, I mean, could a process basically be, I don't know, Dave, what your bandwidth is. Like people could propose ideas to Dave. Dave could like analyze like what the yields would be, right? Like kind of look at it from a diversification thing. He could, if there's any smart contracts we need to like vet, that like is a separate process, right? But we could start doing something like that.
I could agree completely. I think that should be like, that's like a great process for like treasury fund movements. Like, where's this going? What are like the risks involved? Whether that's, yeah. So yeah, I think that makes, we should have a way of like coordinating that information and presenting it for when people are going to vote on it.
Yeah, definitely happy to be involved. I think I'd also be much more comfortable doing like some research work like this than giving my own opinion. You know, I don't want to like, so.
All right. That sounds good. So, and I guess we should probably change the name to DX Yield, not DX Degen, because that's kind of like a different thing. All right. I think we have like one last topic, the swapper on XDAI discussion. Chris, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of like think about what we're doing. I think, you know, so a couple things. Sky's not on the call, but the reason he's not on the call is because he's on the House token call, or DAO House. It's HAUS. And we actually had 2 majority votes over the last 3 days on XDAI to, one, change the fees of a House WETH poll to 3%, and 2, to add House to the token list. The token, I think, is launching today. They're actually doing a separate incentivized farming campaign on HoneySwap for this. But there were some House token holders that wanted the swapper fee changes. They wanted like the high fee. So I think that's like could be an exciting kind of opportunity. And I just think broadly, like we have I think $230,000 in WXDAI WETH on XDAI. And then there's like another 400,000 on the way and a couple other pairs. So yeah, I just think like the product's at a place now where we can think about like, how can we drive volume? Are there like different communities we should try to be like advertising Swapper in? It's a, you know, one of the key, I think, great features of Swapper as a product, and is also going to be appealing to other projects, is that you can search across any Uniswap fork. So yeah, I just think that we should start thinking about how we can try to like drive some extra attention and flow to Swapper and XDAI.
One thing that I dropped in the chat over the weekend that I saw on Twitter was the site DeFi Llama. So I think most people are familiar with DeFi Pulse, right? Tracking TVL and a bunch of crypto projects. We're not on DeFi Pulse in any way, but XDAI is on DeFi Pulse. And then, but it seems like some people on Twitter, like including a bunch of Wire and community, are upset that like DeFi Pulse is basically not like maintaining their numbers very well, and they're kind of like falling, which I mean, I guess isn't necessarily a surprise. It's probably a decent amount of work to like track all these projects, but like there's this other site, DeFi Llama, and but I don't think they're tracking XDAI yet, but they're getting a lot of like traction on Twitter because people are like, look, these guys are like, their numbers are more up to date, they're doing more. Like, so I wonder, is there something we could do as like a community to try to push that? And we could also team up with, like, even just going into the OneHive and BAO discords and being like, hey guys, like I'm from DXDAO, like, why aren't we on DeFi Llama? Let's do something about this. And like try to organize just kind of in a guerrilla sense, like getting DeFi Llama's attention.
Yeah, but maybe this time one of us does that and not 4 of us.
I was gonna say maybe 40 instead of 4. Because I mean, if we're only, you know, yeah, we want, like, I think something like this though, we're like it's not about limiting and like being precise. I think you actually want to create kind of a groundswell so that they see that there's a reason to add it, right? To take the time and prioritize it. But but I think it's also good if we can call people out on Twitter. Yeah.
So I have a question. Like, we're talking about Swapper on XDAI, right? So where do I find Swapper on XDAI? Like,
Swapper.eth, that link.
okay, because like even our Twitter doesn't link it as far as I can see.
Well, that's a problem.
Big problem. Who has?
And then we should be updating the landing page as well with like up more updated. But I think it does. The main page does link appropriately. Right?
The Swapper Twitter does.
But the Swapper Twitter links the normal Swapper. It doesn't link the XDAI Swapper, does it?
It's the same length.
Oh.
Yeah.
You just there's different networks. It's the same thing. Yeah, Omen had the two different ones, but like for Swapper, it's the same thing.
Because I went on there like over the weekend and I tried to click on mainnet to get to the other network and nothing happened.
So yeah, I mean, we were talking about this as Swapper. So like it definitely does. If you just switch your MetaMask network, it automatically does everything the same. And we were trying to institute a network switcher that would go in directly to the product. It's in the next release. There we
go. All right. Any other topics of discussion? Anyone wants to share anything for the recording, or we could stop it and then chit chat about other stuff.
Record. Cool.